For a more news trading style of trader, you're going to be someone who is looking much more at what I would call a situational framework. This is about shifting between markets. It's about recognizing the skill sets that you have. And this applies to scalping as well. You'll find in the situations where your skill set has greatest value. So what this means is that particularly for someone like a news trader, someone who is going to be very active and they're not, what you end up with is a situation where for a more news-based or as what I would call a situational trader, what you're doing is you're going, right, I've got this skill set. Now, I'm looking for situations where this is going to come about. And a lot of that comes down to understanding what the narrative is that's driving markets. For traders like this, they're going to go through patches where they have quite low performance and then jumps, and quite low and jumps. And that's because the situation has come that suits them. And so to do this, you've got to understand the current narrative within a market. What you're then doing is making assumptions about what should happen. Now, of course, you are making assumptions. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to base this on previous examples that you've seen. You're trying to base this on your understanding of what a market should do in a certain situation. What this now means is you know what should happen. So if this piece of news comes out, if the market changes in a certain way, if a certain correlation happens, you have a clear expectation of what should happen. You can then compare this to the market's reaction. Market reacts in a certain way. Now you know whether your assumption was right. And from that, you can then look at the implication. What does this mean for your next trade? And when I say that's very, very short. That's something that can be happening over the course of half an hour. You can change and then you can shift to certain skill sets. You can sort of go, right, I know what this now means. My skill set is geared towards this much more volatile directional move. And now I know what to do about it because I thought this would happen. Certain markets reacted in a certain way. Now I've got to trade. Real simple example of this. Risk off situation. Your assumption is risk off situation, bonds drop, gold rallies, yen rallies, equities fall. So one thing that you're then looking for is if bonds, gold, and yen rally, equities start to move, you can sell equities. You can assume that you're going to get continuation as long as those other markets keep on moving. And because you've got that, now you're able to then leverage that position up. You're using the information that comes at you and you're taking that one individual situation. But what it also means, and where the best people from a situational framework trade, is they also can understand when markets don't do what they should. And this is what I call a should versus actual trade. I referenced risk off situation. This is an extreme risk off situation. But what should happen is gold should rally. That's the general theory. That's the general assumption. Gold doesn't. Gold sits sideways whilst the S&P falls out the sky on this within the blue box. So what's that telling you? This now tells you the situation is not what you thought it was, but you can now look at what's happening and adapt. If gold won't go up when it should, i.e. in a high risk off environment, then gold now can fall if that risk off stalls in any way. So the moment that the S&P starts to stall, you now can switch market. You now know that gold's the one that can move because this should be going up. People have got themselves positioned here. And having that way of looking at things from an assumption, reaction, implication perspective in individual circumstances, so day by day by day, means that then you can approach the markets from moving between markets, moving to where your skill set is most valuable. So it depends on the type of trader that you are. Somebody who is going to trade more one market is going to need a much more holistic approach. Somebody who has skill sets and they want to move between markets needs a much more situational approach.